All right. Menhirs, because I knew we were going to
I'm
go.
like, we need to talk about
We need to go over
Menhirs.
Menhir's fate. Menhir's fate. I knew this would be tricky. Yeah, why don't you tell us what this project Menhir's fate is, and what your role is in it, if you
I
can.
know. So yeah, basically, Menhir's Fate is a new fest LARP that's starting in April this year, and the idea is it's a little, because a lot of the team have gone to like pretty much every fest LARP under the sun, and we're going for something that's kind of high fantasy as a concept. A bit more of the sort of tropey fantasy elements that that Empire stayed away from. It's very sort of bright fantasy as a world where it's been really fascinating to work on, because I guess I have always been thinking about LARP in certain parameters, and working in a larger group that kind of throw out ideas that I would immediately go, I don't think that we can feasibly do that, and then like they'll come up with ideas of ways to do that, and it's been really cool to be part of a wider team. Yeah, we're sort of we're really in the sort of pipeline stage at the moment. I've been editing tons of information that's like so close to come out. I think probably the Sanctuaries briefs are dropping at the moment for so Kairos, Morvalis, and Saradonia, the three kind of more sort of religious bent nations.
Because we got the gods recently, because we were like last night we were like sitting like reading through all the gods, trying to like figure out like, you know, where we're going with some of these things, and we were like obsessing over those, especially the fact that they have like symbols and stuff attached to them. I was just like,
that's been like
to show this.
Johnny's been really deep in those minds for a little while, because the idea with that is that the gods have aspects. So there's 12 gods, but when they show themselves to humans, you can't distill an entire god into a person without losing most of it. Like, so it's just a sort of a facet of the overall kind of gem of that god. And so it means that we can phys rep that with different crew members depending on what the kind of role entails. So, you know, the god of war has different sides to it that might be very different from what people are expecting from a god of war, you know. And the idea as well is that so much of the game is able to be found out as you go. Like the idea is that it's scalable, and that there is like a kind of a nexus hub of information that is currently available within the world, but they have lost a lot of that information because of something called the fading, which was a magical event that has like made a lot of people forget about things outside of the sort of last vestige of the world that they currently live in. So there's tons to be rediscovered that they have lost over the last couple of generations, and there's tons of sort of the world to be reclaimed and made back into their 9 nations. There's 9 nations that are split up into sort of 3 realms with similar themes, and the idea is that those 3 realms have had sort of existing alliances against each other, and then because of the kind of apocalyptic situation they found themselves in with the corrupted, we're calling them, which is the kind of dark gods that have been influencing people and forming armies and forming cults around them, that they've lost a lot of that world, but are now fighting back together and having to like work together and put aside their differences to create or like rediscover the world that they've lost and create a new path in life.
So it's very like,
I do like the idea of like this
No, go ahead, Robin.
I do like the idea of that sort of like the sort of like fade and everything, and it's such a perfect way to kind of like bring like a new sort of system in place, because it also minimizes the amount of stuff we need to try and know before it. Like, I mean, just speaking for myself, trying to remember a lot of information before an event is challenging. So actually being able to like discover things in the game, that's
the idea is, you know, some things like oral tradition have been able to stay a little bit more than things that are written down, and so some of the nations like Urdravan, which is a very kind of nomadic barbarian kind of flavored nation, so much of their storytelling is just stories back and forth, that there might be snippets in the things that they tell each other and the proverbs that relate to lost information, but because they've continued, you know, talking about them, or because festivals keep being celebrated year after year, even through the bad times, they still remember the kind of, you know, the reason why we celebrate this festival on this day, even if you know, the books on it have disappeared, they still have enough of the information to be able to go, we know the story overall, just not like, you know, the nitty gritty. But it means that, you know, we've got this area of the game called the guilds. So there's the Treasure Hunters Guild, the Adventurers Guild, the Court of Daggers, and the Bankers Guild, and they're basically ways in which people can get into the side of the game that they enjoy, and really delve into areas that they might, you know, find a side of LARP that they hadn't appreciated before. Because I mean, when I was playing Empire in the Brass Coast a few years back, I got really into the kind of treasure hunting side of things. Like, you know, Johnny was like, oh, you want to play like a Lara Croft character? I was like, no, I want to play Nicolas Cage in National Treasure. And being able to do the occasional little plot line that was kind of very much that flavor was great. But that kind of thing is quite difficult to get hold of in LARP unless there is a pipeline to it, you know.
It's a very, especially in Empire, just the way that type of game is, it's very, but it's very much based on that political PvP thing. It's not, this game sounding very much more like D&D in LARP at a larger scale. You know?
Yeah, that's the intention. You know, because so many of the people who are getting into LARP in the last couple of years, you know, started playing D&D in lockdown, have progressed from that and want to, you know, especially at that point when, you know, we're all indoors, and want to actually be out in a field and enjoy, you know, a drink sitting down by a fire and be around that ambiance. And I think it's something that's really important, like that just, regardless of the LARP side of things, just that social connection and sort of sitting down with people you don't know and sharing, you know, a story or a song and like that kind of environment is just, I think it's just, there's nothing like it in hobbies wise.
No.
And that's how most of like the sort of like the lore and the history and all of that seems to like come about, is those sort of campfire discussions where we're all role playing, we're all, you know, using what we know about the LARP already, but also adding our own bits into that, and that's how it kind of grows. And you know,
like being able to lean over to something, you're like, oh, you were there, weren't you? What happened after that with the guy with the cow? Do you remember? Like, and that sort of shared storytelling that comes from that. Some of the best stories are largely improvisational after, like, you know, a joke back and forth between people who don't necessarily know each other that well. And it's a mad one, honestly, as a job. But I'm running the monster management team, which is what I've been calling, it's a kind of NPC plus skirmish plus our dungeon tent.
And the sound of that
dungeon tent. Can you go back to that one?
A dungeon tent, you say?
Yeah, so it's something we're currently building, so it's but the idea is basically an environment where we can set up skirmishes or encounters or, you know, puzzles, whatever, that is like a standing encounter tent on a bigger scale, a bit more modular, the ability to kind of shuffle the insides around so that, you know, we can create different environments. Because I've got so many crew at Eversley who are incredible at creating those like very improvisational small scenes for people on like a kind of a rotating board of, you know, silly things.
Well, I mean, I know we kind of saw it at Max's game at like Eldridge Isle. They had like you had like a go, we're giving everyone this experience, and they were doing these encounters like one after the other, and everyone loved them, you know. Yeah,
they were fantastic. Something I'm really passionate about is that, like, you know, we have all these people come through the kind of boot camp of crew, and some of them come down frankly too much and should go home a bit more so that they can, you know, be better rested between times that they're in the woods. Please, have you seen your family at any point in the last 2 years?
They're all sitting on the other side of this being like, we're fine, all right. Give us more.
Okay. But you know, they come through this kind of boot camp of ridiculous nonsense at Eversley, and you know, we end up with these incredible, like, some of them are so young and they're so talented, and they just come up with like a whole concept for like half a lot like encounter that just needs like a little bit of polish, and then they can run it, and they do, and like we sort of give them a lot of pressure sometimes in terms of like, you know, we're giving them the freedom to do something, and fully trust that they will, because they've sort of proven themselves over the course of like the previous couple of events or the previous day or whatever. And so it's ended up with this incredible community of like talented, weird and wonderful people who've got like ridiculous skill sets, but are also like so young. It makes me grumpy about how young and talented they all are. I felt that very much at Dragon's Hunt, with just looking around the different camps and going, you shouldn't be as good at this as you are. I'm livid. Stannis Baratheon, how are you so good at what you're doing? Like, we can't be friends because Ren has specifically written in that we don't like each other so that we won't hang out, because like, we'd apparently hung out and been too capable at the previous few games. And so she was like, no, you're going to hate each other and you're going to like it, okay? And so as a result, spent no time with him apart from when he was being horrible to me, and it was great. But like, just these people, they come out of nowhere, and I think that's the real sort of, that's the engine that I've been trying to sort of put into Menhir's Fate. Like, we've got some like nation support, which is our kind of version of egregores. Persephone has been overseeing that, and she's sort of project managed the first sort of 3/4 of the project, and now she's gone into that as her main role, and she's just stacked it with people from so many different systems, so many different walks of life, who are just so good at different things altogether. And it's been really lovely to see the kind of relationships forming before the game for each of these like national departments that are kind of, it's not quite so mystical as egregores, but they're not like nation command like some systems have. They are very much here to support the nation and to, you know, have a magical sort of tie to the nation and make sure that kind of, that they don't lose everything, like they're sort of the last vestige of that kind of national spirit. And it's been really cool to see that kind of, because like vast variety of different systems that people are being pulled from, but that just like constant sort of outpouring of like, I can do this, like I'm a composer, do you need any music? Like that's sort of like, okay, yes, thank you.
I'll tell you what, LARPers do a very good job of making you feel like inadequate. Like, so the nations, are they going to be like, because obviously, you know, an empire, they're all, you know, we're all separated out into different groups, and I think it works the same as some of the others, like Curious Pastimes. They've got all their groups, something like that. Is there going to be a similar type thing where people are going to like camp with their own and go on adventures with their own and that?
To a certain extent, camp with their own, yes. We've got a kind of a wheel based like sort of camp plan set up with like the central hub of the guilds in the middle, and then each of the nations branching off and like separated in, well, not separated so much, but like camped next to their realm mates, so that we can have that kind of like, because we've planned kind of inter-realm festivals for events 2, 3 and 4, as things that they historically have done together, so you know, to just celebrate their sort of the things they have in common, with the idea that like the main body of the celebration is happening back home, but let's bring a little bit of that here so that we can all feel that, you know, what we're missing. And then the idea is that there will be some sort of camp incursions, but not necessarily camp attacks, with the rifts opening and things coming through and popping into Haven, the sort of magical chunk of land that the gods have provided us with for the campaign. So yeah, it's the central hub of each of those will be in each national thing, but beyond that, there's sort of more availability of international cooperation for quests and things like that.
You can still play with your mates, basically if you've got a group and one of you wants to be in Erdriv and the other wants to be in Valdriff, you can play together basically.
Yeah, and it's a classic thing of like, you can be sleeping in somebody else's tent in, you know, a different nation, if that's your friend who's given you space in their tent. It doesn't necessarily have to be that deep of like, you know, we are forming a group together. It can just be, I've rented this space to my friend from Valdriff in exchange for, you know, some lovely coffee from the Wonder that he has managed to get hold of, you know. Just a lot of international cooperation and international kind of back and forth. Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm looking forward to it. Like because we've started putting together a kit.
What nation?
Valdriff.
Fine. Fine.
See, it's already started. Not even there yet. It's already started.
We've upset a few people by saying Valdrian.
We're gonna be, you know, knights in shining armor. We're gonna save the day. Just for a change.
Never done that before.
Never done that before. Yeah, it's what everyone guessed anyway. They were just like, "You're gonna Valdrian?" Yeah. Because I'm like, Mark wanted us to be in more Valis, and we were like, you're not gonna more Valis? Like, I was like,
well, be goths over in the nation that Mark has written.
Just like we kind of like we kind of already played that in Empire. So.
Well done for really pushing the boat out then, because that was definitely. I only say this as the lead writer of Hammerstadt so far. Like I had just so much fun writing that nation and putting in a lot of sort of the Pratchett tropes that I really enjoy about like cities in fantasy settings, and it's been just so lovely seeing the kind of people grab hold of that and take it. And I very much believe in like there is only a certain point that you can continue to sort of feel ownership for a thing before you have to set it out into the world and see what people do with it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how each of the different nations on the field take that kind of spirit that has been kind of distilled and make it into something really interesting and different, because you can never plan for 100% for what players are going to do with things.
It's going to be interesting because it's going to be, obviously we've got people coming in from who are saying they're going from like you say different systems. We've got like, you know, established long time LARPers, and there's going to be a lot of new people coming as well, you know, so it's going to end with a brand new LARP coming in at ground level. It's going to be really interesting to see all that kind of thrown together and see what comes out, you know.
There's a lot of brand new like LARPers. Like looking in like the Menhir's Discord channel, like there's so many, like it seems to be every day there's somebody like, hey, I've never LARPed before, how do I come and do this and everything. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of brand new LARPers coming to Menhir's, like you said, it'll go along with all these other systems. It's going to be like, I'm excited. It's going to be exciting to see how it all works and how it all goes together and everything.
I think it's going to be a real learning curve at that first event, and we may well change up some things between E1 and E2, or E2 and E3 most likely, because there's a bigger gap there. But it's incredible to see like just how excited. I think there was a lot of people who have been wanting to LARP for a while, but see the sort of the beer moths of Curious Pastimes and Empire and some of the really long-standing systems as just like kind of a scary thing to sort of dip your toe into when there's that much lore and that much that many experts on the field, right? It's a potentially scary environment. So I think being able to offer a space where everybody's in the same position right from the start is hopefully going to be really, really positive for the hobby overall. And I think it's only going to be, that's how I felt about this throughout, is that we are only benefiting the hobby as a whole by having more availability in the market and potentially more legitimacy in terms of like, you know, going to the bank and having to tell them that, oh yeah, this is my job, you know, if they've heard of it because of you know, seeing the documentary about LARP that Empire featured in or things like that. It's only positive for us and makes us all look less like, you know, weirdos in the woods.
I mean,
that's what we want, right? We want more LARPs, we want more opportunities, we want more people out there creating things in this sphere, and it makes it more like just more accessible to everybody who wants to be part of it. And it means I don't get as many weird looks at work. Well, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, media, I don't know what your view on it is, Kitty, but like media, like as soon as I got into LARP, I was like the media is kind of hamstringing it, is so weak. And I get why, because it's difficult, because you can't just like film it. You know, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to film some people LARPing, because it's not really, it's just a point of view. We've talked about this so much on the podcast and talked about so much on, but yeah, it's a point of view experience, in my opinion. So yes, I know it's difficult, but also there's like, I think there's been years of this, like, I don't know if secrecy is the right word, maybe just people guarding their hobby that they do, but because of that, it struggles to grow as just it struggles to grow in the zeitgeist, because it's like, but now we've got more people making media about LARP, then it's going to be a little bit less, like you say, like, oh, this is what I do for a job, you know. But then the more popular there is, the more space there is for you know, newer projects as well. You know, that's what I want. You know, more choice of things to go to, you know.
There's some incredible, really out there projects but the trouble is that in order to be able to run them most of the time, it's it's a good £400 a ticket, and it's a pity that that's the sort of range that we've got is sort of the under £100 large systems, or medium-sized systems, or then the more bespoke experience on that kind of level.
So right, we've been a bit greedy with your time, Kitty. We're going over time. Do you want to talk about like when the first Menhirs is, and
yeah, it's the first weekend of April.
Yep.
You can consult my wall chart, but it's just out of view.
We'll put all the information on screen.
I think it says
well.
the 4th to the 6th. I want to say it's the 4th to the 6th of April.
Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah.
That's the first one. Second one's gonna be the second weekend of May, and then we're running in August and September as well.
So 4 events. So do people need to? Can people just come to any event? Is it like, is there a story that is like, you have to come to all 4, or is it something
not.
you just rock up to anyone?
Yeah, it's like an ongoing campaign. So there will be story beats at each of them that are part of the ongoing story. But you can absolutely show up and well, buy a ticket online first, and come along. We're gonna have a great roster of traders as well. So there's a lot of things like LARP weapons and costuming that will be able to be bought in the trader area. And yeah, it's gonna be pretty exciting being part of a new thing.
Yeah. Oh, I have one question. What is, or who is Menhir? Like, what's it?
So it's a sort of magical. It's a bit, well, in real life it is a big, those are big stones. And I was really keen to include Brythonic terminology as part of like the sort of world building, because I think we want to make it a British LARP. Like, this is UK LARP, right? And so like as a Welsh person, like coming into it and sort of going, no, this, you're all overthinking the pronunciation of this, guys, because some of them like almost sounding kind of Wild West with some of the interesting pronunciations at the start. I was like, if we just say this enough, people will know the words, so we don't have to worry. But like within the game, it's a sort of nexus point of magical energy that the gods have placed there. There are others in the world as well, but the possibility is that others can be found to like progress the story at certain points, but it's sort of a point in which the weavers, which is like a kind of ritual magic that is potentially quite improvisational, rather than necessarily having like a strict ritual text or ritual parameter, can use in order to do weavings as a group. Yes, there are a couple of other guilds that I didn't really mention so much because they are kind of slightly different in format of quest objectives than the adventurers and treasure hunters and the court of daggers. There's also the bank, which is a kind of god's tent in character, so that things can be processed in character and can be part of the overall world, and the sort of central hub area, so people don't have to leave the game area for a long time to process things. And potentially do role play in there as well, rather than queue, because it's one of those things about like fest LARPs. Once you start having a lot of processes, you can be leaving the game for a long time in order to make sure those things happen. So we've tried to build that in as a way to prevent people necessarily having to leave the game area all the time.
I like that. That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
I do hate that when you're like playing a game, you're like really involved, you're like, I need to go and do this thing, and you're literally just queuing.
It just takes you out of the moment, doesn't it? And there's also the technically the Weavers Guild, which is the central hub area where the Menhir will be inside a tent with a kind of projection ring around it, so that fire and special effects like that can be created, which I saw the prototype of a few weeks back when we had a photo shoot, and it was really cool. Like, this is a thing, I'm not a techie person, but like so seeing all the creative output of people who are doing things that I have no idea about, it's been like, this is really exciting.
No, it sounds incredible.
Sorry,
like,
I'm getting really
like...
weird.
No, you're fine, because it's like I've been like super excited about like trying something new and seeing it, but like after speaking to you as well, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I kind of want to see all these things now, like now. It's
gonna be a very interesting one, I think, all hitting the ground running together, and like, because Johnny and I have so much experience in running smaller LARPs that like we're not daunted by the idea of running tons of encounters, and like he's running the skirmish team and is on the plot writing team, so like is very entrenched in that kind of, you know, we make an encounter, we send the encounter out, we deal with, you know, we write down plot things and, you know, pass that up the chain and things, and so that side of things is like, yeah, that's I've done that, it's fine. But you know, new venue and you know, having everybody there in one feel, I think that first moment is going to be like, okay. It's going to be a moment, I think. It's also very funny that there is an actual wizard's tower on site that we've been referring to as the wizard tower, and but it's not, it's shipping containers stacked up on top of each other that for the festivals they use
it's the wizard's tower.
Yeah, they use it to like have like 360-degree like scope on, you know, if there's any issues, and you know, so it's on our map as like the wizard's tower, and I've forgotten the real name for it, so if I'm in a meeting with the people who, you know, run the site, sorry, I only know LARP terminology for the things that, you know.
This is how I'd expect it from a LARPer, probably.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is it. Trying to explain things that to us are normal to like, you know, people whose job is real life things.
Like, it's funny though. Like people are more kind of. I don't want to use the word accepting because it makes you sad, but people are more like, receptive. There we go. People are more receptive, I think, these days. Like I will, like, I'll tell my clients now that I don't know, I'm too old to have like geek shame these days, but like, you know, and a lot of them do actually kind of sort of get it. They go, oh no, like my you know, my brother reenacts, and you know, they kind of get it, whereas I know it used to be when I used to talk about like cosplay and people would be like, what? Okay, well, you dress up.
It's definitely progressed in the last decade. I think people are playing a lot of video games and going, do you know what, this tavern in, you know, Baldur's Gate seems like a laugh, I wish I could actually go there and, you know, hang out and go on a quest. And that's very much what we want to facilitate, that kind of like proper old school like quest LARP, where, you know, people can go, you know, I want to go to the Adventurers Guild and pick up a contract to do something cool with a group of my mates who aren't necessarily on the same nation, and you know, off you go, kind of thing.
So people do magic, right? You said ritual magic. They can do, there's
battle magic as well, cantrips, right?
You can do swords and all that. There's no classes though, right? There's no, like, you don't pick a class, you just pick abilities, right?
There's no class. We've got archetypes for all the nations that are just the common tropes of what a warrior or a, I don't know, bard might look like in that nation. Some of them are sort of what you'd expect. There are some absolute gems in there that have absolutely thrilled me when I've been reading them. My favorite one is with one of the Avaro archetypes, which is the gourmand, which is I mean, I've been watching a lot of Delicious in Dungeon in the last few months, and so like it's like we get to there's a whole archetype for people who go out and find reagents and like, you know, things to put in potions, but because our potion system is consumables rather than just strictly potions, you could literally make a soup and it has the quality of, you know, the potion that you could make, you know, like regardless of what the vehicle is, it's still having the same properties. So, you know, you could play a sort of senshi kind of character who is like, you know, making incredible food, if you're a foodie person who wants to do that.
Discovered a new recipe.
I will join the Adventurers Guild to find the best recipe for bread that exists in the world.
I love that though. I love that.
Thinking about things in those kind of terms where, like, I guess my eyes have been open to what kind of interesting characters people might want to play within a fantasy world that aren't just the kind of classic D&D, but using that classic D&D as a kind of launching board has been really cool.
Right. I'm conscious of the time, Kate, because I don't want I don't want to too greedy with your time. We've gone over the time we said to you, so I don't want to be too greedy with your time. Is there anything else you want to plug, mention about Menhirs before we go? Mention about ILARP or
Character Wizards for Menhir's Fake Characters is going to be up in the next week. So that's going to be really fun to play around with. And tickets are available at the moment for the first 4 events. So really excited to see hopefully a whole load of people on the field there experiencing some of the wacky stuff that I'm currently editing.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to Menhirs. We'll put all the information for Menhirs Feast Your Eyes, iLARP, all the relevant links and everything we've talked about.
Well, the very long
so-
list of things that Kitty does.
Exactly.
It's going to go down the bottom.
all the projects you can find in the show notes and in the
Amazing.
video description. This has been great, Kitty. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no
I knew we'd have like a million things to talk about. So
I'm a yapper.
no, it's been great. Right. Also, well, we'll say goodbye to the podcast, everyone, shall we? Right. See you later, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.